I've done it, guys. I've found an anime I genuinely like enough to recommend to people and say I guess I'm an anime fan. It's happened. Attack on Titan is an animated series you can watch on both Hulu and Netflix right now if you are in the United States. And I want to do a fairly comprehensive review here because I want to do what I find to be a wonderful story justice, while also simultaneously expressing some still complaints I have about the medium and general storytelling structure we have here with anime as a whole. That being said, yes, I really liked Attack on Titan. I've had multiple anime fans comment on my recent reviews of series saying like, why are you even doing these reviews? You're not a fan. And what I want to say is, look, I'm trying to learn. I'm genuinely just trying to understand and potentially become a fan. And I think the mentality of telling people to stay away from your medium altogether isn't helping anyone. I'm not here to make fun. I'm trying to learn in a way. Like that's a good thing. I even had one other content creator who was roughly my size leave a similar comment, and after I replied, they deleted their comment, which is fairly understandable. But I just want this mentality to be done away with. I'm not here in bad faith or to like throw stones. I am trying to find something I can enjoy and share with my audience, which may have a similar disposition that I previously had of not enjoying this medium as much. So I can now come in and say, hey guys, this one I found to be worth watching, and Attack on Titan is for sure worth watching. So let me just get the biggest praise I have out of the way here first, and that is the overall story of Season 1 of Attack on Titan. Note, I've only finished Season 1, and I'm going to end this video with my predictions for Season 2. Luckily, I went into this series completely spoiler-free, largely probably because I don't run in anime circles, which greatly enhanced my enjoyment of the narrative. And I absolutely want to stress for people who are curious of trying this, do not look it up, don't go to the subreddit, nothing beforehand, because a minor spoiler here or there for Season 1 could really affect enjoyment. I don't often stress spoilers that much, but I really think that's true in this case. But general premise here, just the setup. Attack on Titan is essentially the story of a massive, gargantuan city that the remnants of humanity are living inside of. They have many layers of walls protecting them from the outside world, and this outside world is populated by these monsters. Which at the start of the show renew their attacks and trying to decimate humanity's last beacon of hope, this massive city. Defending the remnants of humanity are these super soldiers who use like Spider-Man-like air-powered grappling hooks as well as these disposable blades to fight these titans. And man, oh man, that is a cool premise that is built and executed throughout just the beginning of season well. Like, you understand everything so quickly. I gotta give a lot of praise for the storytelling there. It's not the most complex story ever to set up, but I just really enjoy how episode 1, by the end of just that first 20 minutes, I'm like, I get the stakes. There's definitely a lot of power dynamics here within the population itself. Like, this story is set up, and because the Titans are it's so like wacky yet horrifying. It's really strange to be laughing at one of the Titans because they're so ridiculous looking, but your laughter is always kind of nervous. You're always like, ha. Now, I will say the momentum of this story, which is set up brilliantly at the beginning of the season, isn't perfect. I found the narrative thrust to lack at times. We'll get into that more in a minute, but overall, I just want to say the biggest praise I have here for Attack on Titan is the fact that I didn't see the twists of the season coming. It constantly kept me on my feet, with which such a simple premise you wouldn't think would be the case, but I really was kind of left guessing. Every new reveal just didn't go in the direction I expected, and that's some damn fine storytelling right there. Don't know why I went southern, but I did. Also, side note, for great setup and payoff as well throughout the season. Like, I imagine if I rewatched this, there'd be a lot of foreshadowing I could have picked up on. There's also just like a narrative flair here to the way this story is told. I can't really put my thumb down on it exactly, but even at the points where I was kind of most bothered by certain aspects of the way this story was being told to me, I was invested. I never felt disinvested from Attack on Titan Season 1, not even for a minute. Now that I've gotten that big old heap of praise out of the way, I do need to talk about some of my issues with this medium that still persist, and these are going to be massively subjective, and I'm sure fans of the genre will not necessarily agree with this, but I have to be true to my review here and mention some things that certainly bothered me to also tamper expectations to members of my audience who know me and my reviews and need to be warned. Something that has become clear to me just watching a few anime shows up until this point is that for some reason this medium has an obsession with monologues. Like, you know how in bad action movies the villain will start monologuing during an action climax and it's barely obnoxious and you're like, oh, this is dumb? Everyone does that in anime. If there is a fight, literally, like, in the middle of, like, the most intense moments, they will start monologuing, and everything will freeze around them. It's like time stops. There's no consequences to them just deciding now is time to talk. Without getting to spoilers, there's a moment where a character is straddling a villain, like they are on top of them, and they just start thinking, not even saying, they're just thinking at this point. They're just thinking about what they're going to do next. And there's like a slight thing where they're waiting for something to happen so they can begin hitting again. This person is so enraged, they should absolutely still be doing something. But instead, we're just left with the characters staring at each other. And this happens yet again a couple episodes later where one of the Titans is in a trap and the ladies just by them talking, and it's a time-sensitive trap. That's established. Like, we know this trap isn't perfect, and this person is just sitting there like, yes, we were going to not waste any time. And I'm like, motherfucker, you're wasting time. And I would very much so forgive this point if the monologues added something we weren't already narratively aware of as an audience. But 95% of the time, they're just reinforcing the character's motivation and state of mind, which I don't need, and feels like padding to hit a runtime. There's also several instances where I just felt the animation kind of messed with the pacing or the story a little bit and pulled me out of what was going on, and I think this might be somewhat due to the limitations of animation and how expensive it is to constantly be editing, like, you know, new frames, art you haven't seen. But there's budgetary things where they'll just like freeze on people who are in the middle of a conversation walking down a staircase, instead of like actually animating them talking to them. It's just a still image, and maybe it's like, you know, slightly zooming in on the image or something, but it's like, hey, that was odd. And also, while they're using these like crazy badass grappling systems, like I really love these. They're so well done. Everyone can be Spider-Man here, and I believe it, and it works. But they're like, they shoot, and they shoot like, you know, 100 feet out, connect to a tree, and you zoom to that tree, and then you do another one, or building, wherever you are, and that's how these things work. But these people are talking for like 2-minute stretches without ever engaging, and I'm like, hey, how far did you shoot that thing? Because you're zipping through the air. The animation makes it clear, but you guys are just talking perfectly fine with each other, back and forth, with a bad guy chasing you. So you're definitely going quickly. Can I not get like another fuck flick? Can we do another fuck flick? Like that? That breaks the narrative for me, because I know you constantly need to be doing these things again. Now, to set up another small issue, I need to actually add a massive compliment to Attack on Titan yet again, and that is the action at its best is the best I have ever seen from an anime before. Attack on Titans just fights, the visceral tension in the air and the just brutality of what you're watching is extraordinary. I don't know what to call it in anime, but for like a live action movie, you'd say the fight choreography. The fight choreography here is fascinating because these people, these elite soldiers, are utilizing their equipment, their disposable blades so well. Often great story moments are happening as a result of the action, and so much of it is character based. Just, oh, wonderful, 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 wonderful. But sometimes it suddenly, at least to me, my, not entirely informed opinion just comes across like they need to save money. And so the action scenes will just be boiled down to, like, again, a frozen shot of someone like mid-swing, and it zooms in with like intense sound effects. And why we were having this great momentum, such like immersion in this action, it was coming across so energetic, and then you literally freeze frame for like 10 seconds. Didn't like that at all. And kind of tying into something I said before, just please stop talking during action. I hate that. The information we are getting from these monologues happening during the action are rarely anything crucial, really we're just being told something the character has already realized before, being layered on once again, and maybe they're just padding for time, I don't really know. Now I want to add the note here, the only reason this stuff really bothered me is because of how much I generally enjoyed Attack on Titan. Like if I just didn't care about this story as a whole, these things would just wash over me and they'd be another whatever. But I don't like it because I'm so invested otherwise. It's just because when these things happen, it pulls me out from my story I'm otherwise completely immersed in. So then there's the final animeism that I need to talk about here, that the over-the-top reactions that the genre of anime seems to insist on having are a killer for me. Not meaning that it killed my enjoyment of Attack on Titan, but it can certainly kill a scene. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Something small happens and an anime character reacts like they just had their torn off. Hey, sup? Yeah, could you pass the salt? How could he possibly ask this of me? He knows that Salt killed my father and kidnapped my sister. I'm exaggerating a bit, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. The only way it strikes me as someone who typically enjoys live action is a lack of nuance to performance. If to communicate an emotion from a character you have to go to a 10 every time, I begin interpreting it as, again, is this a budgetary constraint? And yeah, you can't do a lot of nuanced performance on an anime face? I don't know. And so you go to this over-the-top thing to communicate to me what the character is reacting to? So am I supposed to interpret this as like a muted version of what's actually happening on screen? Don't like that. I'm not really sure. And this is why I often do disagree with anime fans who say like, oh, this series should be an anime, when like, no, I think this character from, let's say, Mistborn needs a very nuanced performance, something in the vein of like a Michael Fassbender, and I've never seen that from an anime performance. Yes, a lot of the voice acting is great, especially if you do subs, not dubs, and I very much so think you should with Attack on Titan. I went back and forth between the two, and my god, do subs. But I like a very subtle, toned-down performance that feels human to me. And while I did enjoy a lot of these characters, hashtag Levi is a badass, the over-the-top nature of them at times just kind of felt like, oh, that's not the character established to me so far, and I don't like that. Granted, I still really enjoyed a lot of these characters. Eren, while he did annoy me at first, became someone I'm deeply invested to see their future as I continue on to season 2 and 3. Makusa or Makasa, depending on if you're watching subs or dubs, they say it differently. She was also someone who at first I was kind of about, but then as I began to understand her motivations more, again, another character I'm chalking up to, I want to see how they develop. There is a bit of a formula where like, oh, Eren wants to go do something, everyone says, no, don't do it, then things get worse, then Eren goes and does it. That happens a few times, but it always kind of worked with the story and didn't bother me much, and it kind of just became part of the charm where it's like, dude, go do your thing. By the way, Levi, just love that man. So now let's get into the art. The art here was extraordinary. Like, there was one shot that stood out to me where it's just a character holding bread. Like, you have a shot where it's from their perspective and you're looking at some bread above a tray they're about to eat, and the lighting and everything just comes together in this shot so magnificently. I was just struck by, wow, this looks like real art. I get anime fans who enjoy just the frame-by-frame aesthetics here, and there was so much of that in Attack on Titan. Even if you don't care about this story, even if you're not an anime fan, just kind of look online for some of the best scenes. I'm sure there's compilations out there somewhere of like the greatest art of Attack on Titan. It's really brilliant. There are seriously a couple story beats and twists here within Attack on Titan that were so well executed and unexpected, yet still fitting the narrative built, that I was left, well, as Attack on Titan would put it, doing this, "That's impossible!" Or as a human would do it, just going, oh, damn. So getting to a last couple notes here, definitely think the themes are well realized in Attack on Titan. I mean, there's a clear message here, and while sometimes it's a little bit heavy-handed, overall it just makes sense within the world built. You're going to have a bit more of a heavy-handed touch and extreme human reactions because of the amount of pressure everyone is under. So when a soldier starts flipping out for the umpteenth time and talking about desertion, I get it. They're going against like some of the most terrifying monsters I've ever seen. Why is this so disconcerting? It's just It's just terrifying. One of the reasons I strongly suggest subs, not dubs here, is the fact that I think there are just some translation issues. I don't know if these are idioms in the original language that don't exactly come over very well to English, but reading them is smoother than having the English actor try and emphasize them in a way that makes sense. In general, I also just think the performance in Japanese are more subtle and cut down on that lack of nuance I talk about. The American English actors seem to be going really hard to the point where it's a bit too much for me, but reading things also at times just made more sense. You know, there's always going to be struggles with translation, and this also makes me wonder about when an audience overseas gets dubbed for their language version of like the MCU movies. I wonder how well those are going over. That's an interesting question I actually need to look into. Also, just as a total side note, tangent, WTF moment for this show, during like the biggest climax of the season, when like so much is paying off, it's so tense, I was glued to the screen, absolutely invested. There's a random shot of a cat next to some of the rubble from the damage being done. Why was that there? And the cat's like totally chill. What? So overall, Attack on Titan is going to be a roughly 7 out of 10 for me. The story is like a 9 out of 10. I'm here for that. The flesh around the skeleton of the story, the way it's communicated to me, more looks like one of these guys. I'm feeling like a 4 out of 10, so it averages out, and I'm actually being a little generous here saying no, stick it a 7, because I do think it is worth that rating at least, and I can absolutely see how this series would become an anime fan's S tier, if you know what I mean. From what I have seen, this is some of the best this medium has to offer. So I want to get into predictions. I've never done this before, and I'll probably be entirely wrong. I have still managed to maintain avoiding spoilers here, and I would like to take my shot into the dark and see if I can call what happens. So if you want to avoid spoilers for season 1 altogether, you need to click off now or skip to that time code, and let's go ahead and talk about what I think might happen in season 2. That big-ass Goliath Titan from the first episode has to make a return. Duh. And I think what we're going to see in terms of escalation of story is Erwin is going to have to try and fight this guy in some way. He's going to at least do enough damage to make him go away, retreat. I don't know, maybe they could lose another sector of the city. And as a result, though, he will be severely injured to the point where he's down and out for the count for at least the good first chunk of season 2. Then, from a narrative perspective, we're allowed to get to know a lot of these side characters we've enjoyed quite a bit up to this point a lot better, because yes, I've gotten to know these characters a good amount, but there's definitely been a focus on our main boy over here, and I'd like to spend some time with the rest of them. And I could see from a narrative perspective that making more sense, and I hope they do so, because one, it brings back in the big reminder of this guy at the first episode who did such irrevocable damage to the humans, and on top of that, it allows these other characters to shine, and I'd really like to see that way. Probably wrong, though. I also think it would be a lot more of a tense beginning of the season if they don't have this Titan to rely on, and instead we have to see these elite soldiers really take to the forefront, the front lines of holding off wave after wave of Titans. I'd be down for that. I just can't wait to see that Goliath Titan return. It was like the ultimate, like as soon as he appeared on screen, I was like, oh, this is a big deal. Plus, this would allow Levi to take the lead for a while, and the more Levi takes the lead, the better. I hope this didn't come across as overly harsh. I just wanted to give my full, honest-to-God thoughts, and I think it says a lot about how good this story was, that despite these criticisms that are really more annoyances than anything else I had, I'm here, I'm going to watch season 2, I'm going to watch season 3, which a friend of mine told me is like so great, even compared to season 1, so really excited for that one there. And let me know what you think, even as an anime fan or non-anime fan, in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here, and have a good one, y'all. Peace!